Hey everybody, it's Friday. I'm still Kevin Murcko. This is still CoinMetro, and this is the weekly AMA. Ask me anything this week in crypto. I forget what we call it, but basically you're going to ask me questions and I'm going to answer them. That's about how it works. I see Slava first in today. I think that might be a first for Slava. So congratulations. Hey Brian, Jens. Already thumbs up. Appreciate that. All right, I'm just going to jump into the first question, guys. Here we go. So from Slava, Kevin, there seems to be mixed emotions about raising the XCM floor price to 3 cents. I know you answered a few times in TG, but can you give a quick summary behind the decision? Sure. I don't think there's much of a mixed reaction or emotion. I think it was positive, almost 90%. But sure. So as everybody who's been here for a while knows, we had a price floor at 1 cent since the actual listing of trading of XCM. We had this 1 cent price floor. And we did that initially because what we didn't want to see happen was people coming in and seeing a top of book price when the book was very thin, and then selling into that top of book price with market orders, and then seeing slippage that potentially could be, extraordinary, and then not understanding the mechanics, market mechanics, simple as that. And then think, potentially they got, that we did this on purpose, or that somehow they screwed out of their own money. Obviously, as the market started to get more and more liquid, we think we only saw that 1 cent price floor be touched once or twice. And the market only really came close, anywhere remotely close to that price floor, only a handful of times. But what it did was it made sure that all limit orders sitting in the book were populated above that floor and helped when the book was illiquid to maintain a healthy market. Now, what we've seen over the past year or so is that the average mean, the mean price over the last year has hovered around 3 cents. And we still have orders that were sitting below 3 cents. Liquidity that really was remaining untapped, wasn't being used. And yes, there was one or two spikes that spiked down a little bit, maybe around 2 cents or so over the past months. But generally speaking, a lot of that liquidity I don't think was ever going to be touched again. It was just sitting there, and it didn't really have much use to the company or to traders. It wasn't really providing any more price discovery in the book. So the decision was to move the price floor, bring it up to 3 cents, allow that liquidity to then be pushed up as well, to increase liquidity at 3 cents and above. And also, we have a lot of our supporters. That means most of you guys in here, and most of our supporters who have been buying XCM throughout the past year and a half to add to their portfolios, have been buying at 3 cents or below. And obviously, there was a risk. The price floor was 1, but that still means a risk. If you buy at 2 cents, you could potentially see a 50% loss, or maybe not a realized loss, but at least in terms of market value. And if you bought at 3 cents, well, you could see an even further reduction. So now by moving the price floor, we've ensured that everybody that's been buying and adding to their bags over the past year can now be assured that liquidity will only sit at 3 cents or above. So it was kind of a thank you, to be honest, to the community. And we've gotten commitments now from some pretty big investors that they are going to support XCM price quite extensively moving into the new year. And so I don't think this floor is going to be seen for much longer. To be fair, we may never touch it again, and if we do, we may only touch it briefly. And with enough liquidity that's moved up, we might not ever touch it again. So it was done as a thank you. It was done in preparation for this new buying to come into the market as well. All right, Jen's waiting for your barrage of questions. Boom. Well, I think we haven't gotten to Jen's question yet, but let's see. Kevin, can you say now that APY, or what APY will be for staking XCM and ICO tier? This will happen in December, right? XCM staking in December, we plan to see happen in December. It might not be XCM staking, at least not the first asset that we plan to get staked will be XCM. So we may not see XCM staking in December, might happen in January. So no, we're still working on the math because we have a few assets that we want to give staking for, where we're going to be paying staking in XCM. So it'll be another asset that you can stake and you'll be paid in XCM based on your tier. And we're going to limit the amount of XCM that can be paid, or the euro value of XCM that can be paid using that staking method, but we want to do it on a few assets. So we want to make sure that we don't overstretch our treasury. So no, I don't have those numbers yet, but when I do, I will definitely share them. As you revalue XCM, why don't you revalue tier prices with it? It's a good point, but the floor wasn't correlated directly to tier value, because to be fair, I don't think there was ever much time for anyone to accumulate at the previous floor. In fact, most people have accumulated between 2 and 3 cents. So we've seen price rise. We will at some point, more than likely, reevaluate tier sizes. I don't think we're there yet. I think the pricing currently still, in terms of the benefits given, I think it still fits. But yes, we will. But again, not necessarily because of the floor, simply because there was never a correlation between floor value and tiering. And I don't expect there to be one in the future either. Could you elaborate a little on how all this funding stuff is? You didn't talk much about funding lately, and suddenly it looks as though there's funding enough committed for entire bond by the sell side, et cetera. Yeah, well, that's how life works. I think I told you guys at some point, look, I've been around on the planet for a while now, and at least for me, I've always found that if I commit myself to something and I continue to work at it, eventually things work out. And in my case, a lot of times they work out in the 11th hour, meaning I work and work and work and work and work. And I used to really, really fixate on problems and get worried and anxious about them when I was younger. Until I came to the realization that as long as I worked and was diligent, when it got to the point that it was going to become an issue, it was solved. And I'm not saying that miraculously, somebody clicks their fingers and things get solved. No, it requires work. But if I focus on the work rather than the anxiety of what happens if whatever doesn't happen or happens, then I always seem to get what I need. And so I've been diligently working, so is the rest of the team, on CoinMetro. We've been just working on CoinMetro. Obviously, I've been talking to investors, we've been doing different things, but we've just been working diligently. And in the last 2 weeks, we've been in very serious discussions with current investors and investors brought in by our current investors about exactly what you just mentioned, about the bond itself, making sure that we have that funding that we need to push forward, and putting substantial support behind XCM, knowing that, one, it's going to help the company, and two, it's going to reward everybody that's helped us up to this point, which is a big deal for us. It's a big deal for us. Obviously, we hold XCM as well. I hold XCM, so does other majority shareholders. But we know that we wouldn't be here if it wasn't for the community that supported XCM in the entirety of our journey so far. Because obviously in 2019, we were selling XCM to pay the bills. And we were able to do that because there were people on the buy side. And so we want to make sure that those people feel as happy and as energetic about the company and continue to. And to do that, well, supporting XCM price definitely falls into that, because that means that they get rewarded as the company grows as well. So it's been something that's been talked on and off about and strategized a bit. But in the last few weeks, it's really been at the top of the agenda. And this group of investors that are already shareholders are 100% committed. I've actually been on 2 or 3 calls, as has Oliver, in the last 4 or 5 days. And there, a plan's in place. They're still working on some intricacies of the plan. Plan's in place. Money is being funneled. And there you go. So sometimes again, when you fixate on something, we've been fixating on the debit card, right, for a long time, right? And well, we've been fixating, but there you go. I can almost guarantee you the minute we stop fixating, boom, debit cards. So same thing here. I haven't been fixating on funding. It's obviously been something I'm working toward, but working toward funding, part of that is making sure CoinMetro works as it should, that we have clients, that our products are the best they can be. So just diligently working, and then you get rewarded. That's how life tends to work. Okay. Brian, Kevin, in Oliver's update, he mentioned that you will have access to 400,000 hedge funds. Can you elaborate on this? So through another one of our shareholders, who has an intricate network where they have access to these funds. Now, we've had access to them indirectly through the shareholder since they became a shareholder, but late last year. However, we didn't feel we were ready really to start kind of having major dialogues with them. And we feel we're now at the point where we can start those dialogues. So it's just about having access to them. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean funds, though it probably would at some point. But it means being able to work with their networks, get connected to other investments they've made, get connected to some people that can help us with different things in the business, getting connected to people that understand how to grow a business, scale a business, all those good things. So it's about advisory, it's about networking, and it's about, at the end of the day, funds as well, but not just funds. So when will XCM be on TradingView? Hey man, I actually don't know the process to get something visible on TradingView. So I guess it really depends on the requirements. If we can meet the requirements, I guess it can happen sooner rather than later. And could you break the news to us on what coin are you about to list and the benefits you see from CoinMetro? So it's VXV. I think that's already been kind of the cat's out of the bag in the Telegram group. So what I will say is that, the order we start listing these new assets is not necessarily based on anything other than the fact that some had dates that they mentioned to us that just gave them priority, simply because they had things that they wanted to do, and we felt a benefit because CoinMetro was going to be involved in some of their press releases or in their talks with some other partners that we thought both sides could benefit from. So it is VXV, vector space. The guys deal in data sets. They have a token that basically allows people to gain access to those data sets. Most of their clients are hedge funds and other institutional players that use the data that's collected by their AIs to make decisions. So automating decisions, machine learning, et cetera. That can be trading, that can be agricultural related, that can be industry related, shipping, freight, cargo. It could be almost anything, to be fair. For us, when we look to list something, there's two things. Now, we've had this thing floating around that people started to say that we're the gem exchange, right? Because obviously we've listed things before their most recent pumps. We had Link, where we list who we listed when they were priced in cents, I believe. We have Quant that we listed when they were priced in cents. We had Parsec that we listed when nobody even knew who they were at 2.5 cents, and people were buying on CoinMetro at half a cent before the pop. So when we go to list something, there's two things. One, obviously people trade tokens sometimes because I'm in it for the tech, bro. But in reality, they're trading tokens because they're trying to make money. So there's two things to look at. One is longevity of a company. One is to make sure, the first thing we're looking at is we're checking documentation, we're checking legal opinions, we make sure things aren't securities, make sure we can list them legally. Then we're looking into what the business does. Do the principals have experience in the business that they're doing, etc. Now, we don't delve too deep there, but we want to make sure that we're not listing things that are simply going to pop and blow up. And that doesn't mean that can't happen, because we're not vetting organizations to the point where we can fully guarantee that that's not going to happen. Absolutely not. But it's something we do enough topical research that we can to get an idea of what this company does, and that the people that are behind it have some experience, and we feel that they may be able to accomplish their goals. And then the last piece is, well, obviously our clients trading something, well, they want to make money. So we try to find things that we feel are on the verge potentially of moving higher, that they have lots of community support, lots of hype, that they're handling their PR well, that they're controlling that hype cycle. And we feel VXV falls into that gap. That doesn't mean that when we went through our review, we didn't see things that maybe didn't check our boxes. That can happen. Definitely legal opinions check the boxes. Legally, we can list it. We don't see any issue with it being claimed as security. There might have been a few things that essentially we don't feel check the boxes that we would like to check, but it checked enough boxes where we feel that it's of benefit both to CoinMetro, to VXV, and to our user base to get the listing done. So it's putting in a price floor close to market manipulation, though? No critique. No, I don't think so. So I'll tell you why. One, XCM is not a financial instrument. And even if it were, people have talked in the Telegram group about circuit breakers, for example, which is a bit different. But let's say most people, without a true understanding what market manipulation is, would think a breaker is probably price manipulation. Why? Well, oh no, the price went down too much. Let's stop trading and let people chill out, and hopefully they'll buy when it comes back on. That sounds pretty manipulative. But obviously those things are there The reason why they're created and put into the market is to make a more make the market operate in a more, supposedly, in a more let's say, natural way. And to, when there is too much panic in the market, then, well, they want that panic to subside, because people make different decisions when they're panicking than they do when they're not panicking. But obviously, if you're on the short side, you're pissed, right? That to you is probably something you don't like. If you're on the long side, you're happy, I guess. So the point is that no matter what you do in markets, even when it isn't considered to be market manipulation, one side may not like it, the other side may like it, or whatever. You may not even be on sides. Maybe it's bipartisan, but still 10% don't like it. So at the end of the day, no, I don't think it's price manipulation. It's not a financial instrument. It's a utility token that you buy to gain access to benefits inside of our closed ecosystem. And since we've been seeing it sell between the high 2s and the upper 3s for over a year, we decided that the 1 cent minimum price tag didn't make any sense anymore, given the value that the token holds inside of our ecosystem. We don't feel that 3 cents necessarily it should be the minimum either, but we also didn't want to put it to 20 cents or 50 or whatever, because we want to make sure there's liquidity there as well. People need to be able to buy that token. People need to be selling. People need to be buying at those prices. We felt that since the market had already been selling and buying around this price, it made sense to have that as the minimum value of the utility aspect of the token. Simple as that. Just like if you're going to the movies and the movie theater decides, well, we have senior tickets for, I don't know, $3. That's probably way that high. Jesus, I've been in the movies in a while. And children's tickets for $4 and then normal tickets for $8. I know that's way cheaper than it is right now, but just bear with me. And we're going to raise the base. I mean, the senior, not the base, but the lowest ticket price to $5 now, and we're going to raise everything up because, well, we feel we have to cover costs, or we feel whatever that the value is there, or memberships to a club or whatever. So it's a utility token, which means it's not treated like a financial instrument. I think that's my main point here. Okay, bring down the price again. Still don't have 100K. Yep, that definitely will be price manipulation links. So I can't say what's going to happen with price. I do know that there's a lot of interest in coming in to support price, and some larger scale investors looking to buy. So I don't know if it will come back down again, but if it does, I hope you're able to grab what you need, links. When you say big investors, of course, XCM, you mean they will be buying XCM to sustain its growth in price? Essentially, yes. Meaning that they will be coming in and buying up lots of supply and then supporting price. Obviously, as they buy supply, people will be selling. They will see some capitulation. They've committed to not only be buying XCM from the market, but also supporting its price. Can you advise on any potential liquidity of VXV? There hasn't been much interest from the VXV community, and the founder wants to remove tokens rather than provide. Yeah, so we have a market maker that we're going to put in touch with VXV to see if they want to work together. I've seen some comments in the VXV channel on Telegram that I don't necessarily understand. It seems to me a lot of the people there don't understand it either. They are saying that they want to create organic price discovery, and that means leaving the book pretty much empty until people come in and add limit orders, and they would add, and VXV would add limit orders with a goal of buying most of their tokens back. Obviously, though, if the price isn't right, no one's going to be selling, and if no one's selling, how are they buying them back? So and that's a discussion I haven't fully had yet with the CEO. We went on it topically. Right now, obviously, when the token does go live, it's going to be limit orders only, and we're going to have those discussions. I agree with him that over time, that methodology, it's pretty much what we did with XCM. You saw how long it took for XCM to gain liquidity, though they may already have an active community bigger than we had in the beginning. So potentially that changes. But I do think at some point there needs to be more active dynamic market making. So that's a discussion we're going to have that we haven't had completely yet. But the information you have is exactly what we have from their CEO. Hey, Skylar, nice to see you. Nice to see you here rather than on Discord. So I think my hair's always been gone. Oh, not always. I mean, well, I guess I was born, bald, and now, I'm just regressing. But yeah, why was there more last week? Don't freak me out, man. Did I have like more hair last week? And now somehow I'm like three hairs lighter, 4 maybe. I don't know. I think it's about the same. But thanks for the heads up. But don't freak me out. Okay, so 38 people get smashing the thumbs up button. Yeah, guys, appreciate. I see some thumbs up, and then I see a wow face. So right on. I think that's our first wow face. That's pretty cool. And the guy's bald, so it's a bald face, and he's wowing. So that fits. Hey Kevin, once staking of XCM is active, is this going to be combined with the locked XCM? For example, if I lock 10K for tier 1, do I need to buy XCM to put in stake? So the goal for staking is that all XCM on the platform, basically that gets, if you stake it, if you put it up for collateral, or if you lock it or put it for collateral, then it's also staking automatically. That's the idea. So we haven't so you'll know the details of that once we push out the details. But the goal is that you will have to opt in, because there'll only be a limited amount of, so if you have just XCM sitting in a wallet on your dashboard, there's a limited amount of XCM that we can actually allow staking for, because obviously we have a treasury that needs to pay for it. As the company grows, as we make more earnings in XCM, well, then eventually we'll be able to adjust that staking methodology and perhaps push it out for a longer period. But we need to limit it. So, but the idea is that collateral, if it's within the realm of, so you select that, yes, I'd like my XCM to go into staking. So you get on the list. If you lock it, if you have it in collateral, if it's sitting on a dashboard, wherever it is, you're going to get those staking rewards. Will there be more promo videos? You mean like the video that we did about the office? I would love to do more. So as soon as you guys help us out and sell that bond out, then yes, absolutely. I think we will definitely be more and more, I don't want to say like those eToro videos, though some of them are comical and funny, but I think we definitely will be doing more media. Absolutely. So additional to funding, what would it mean for 2 to 3 months of runway from a month ago? What would it mean for the 2 to 3 months of runway from a month ago? And will there be more allocated to marketing? Well, if you look at the bonds, bonds selling out equates to what, 2.5 million euro. Obviously, there's on average about 500,000 euro that's going to be paid out in interest. So we would probably leave that aside. It wouldn't be money that we would be spending. As we start to make revenue, then obviously that would change. We'll be able to extract and then pay back with the incoming profits, not revenue but profits. And then on top of that, there's some affiliate commissions and things like that would come out. So you can envision about 1.8 something like that million euro available. And so that could be somewhere in the realm of 6 to 10 months worth of runway, depending on how we scale up. But we obviously, with the support on the XCM side, that could significantly increase the size of our treasury. And on top, and if there's enough liquidity, then us having to sell some treasury into the book won't really mean anything. It's like when BNB does it, right? Obviously, Binance does it probably massively, doesn't really affect BNB's price. Same thing that obviously even Ether Foundation, et cetera, they can, or XRP for that matter. There's enough liquidity where it can be supported without really any substantial change in price. And will more be allocated to marketing? Absolutely. The main goal of fundraising now is growth. Now, obviously, we have licensing. That also means growing the team. So obviously, our burn rate will expand. But absolutely, there will be more money pushed into marketing. Yeah. A real budget for the first time. Hey, Kevin, any comment on XCM volume and price movements 24 hours prior of the announcements of the 3-cent price floor? Insider trading or major coincidence? Neither, actually. Not a coincidence and not insider trading. So we didn't announce that price floor externally. It was only within, our shareholders knew about it, obviously, as well as the C-level knew about it internally. What happened is that obviously naturally speaking, we kind of just hit a moment where the market started to pick up. And why did it pick up? Well, you had Bitcoin and Ether stagnate and then retrace. And as we talked about before, when you have Bitcoin or the majors moving in one direction, people tend to move out of altcoins and they move back into Bitcoin because they see it moving. Now, obviously, if you really think about it, Bitcoin's move from 13 to 20 is, relative percentage speaking in crypto is not the biggest move in the world, right? It's 45 to 50%. That means that would be XCM going from 3 to 4.5 cents, which obviously we've already done in these past few days. So, but anyway, once Bitcoin stagnates, and starts to fall, people take their profits out and they push them back into altcoins. And it's the same pattern we've seen many, many times, and it happened to happen right into the same schedule. And then once we made it clear that we were going to be raising, obviously that pushed even more demand for people that were moving their orders or placing new orders, knowing that, look, if you're buying at 4 cents or 5 cents and the new floor is 3, you're limiting your risk substantially. And so I think it was a combination, but it definitely wasn't insider trading. It had nothing to, and I guess you can call it a coincidence, but I don't think it was so much of a coincidence. The major coincidence was just the fact of how Bitcoin and Ether and the other majors were reacting, and the normal ebb and flow between altcoins and or between micro caps or let's say small caps and large caps. Yes, Big Kev, I've only just turned in, so apologies if it's been asked. When will decent liquidity be added to VXV? They openly say they won't. So I think I just answered that one. Probably you've been here while I answered it, but I'll cover it again. So as much as we do in terms of what VXV is going to do about liquidity. At first, it's going to be limit orders only, so it won't necessarily be an issue. You might not get your order filled, but you're not going to get slipped if there isn't enough liquidity. So we've had discussions topical with their CEO, and he said the same thing he said in the group, which is that they want it to be, I think the somewhat buzzworthy buzzword explanation was something about organic price discovery, something along those lines. Yeah. So what they want to do is basically over time fill that with limit orders and then essentially come in themselves with limit orders and eat through the book to buy back more of their own tokens. Now, there's an inherent flaw with that model in that people have to sell for you to buy. And so you need to have dynamic market making happening as well, because if not, then who are you buying from? If price isn't moving, if price stays stagnant and people don't want to sell at that price, then there's going to be no market, especially in an illiquid one. So I do think they need dynamic market making. I absolutely think it's crucial. I don't think they're going to make an organic book that's going to be healthy within less than 8 to 12 months. You saw what happened if you were here from the beginning, and if you weren't, I can explain what happened with XCM. XCM, that's exactly what we did, and not because we didn't want to find external liquidity, but the external liquidity offers we had for XCM at the time were abhorrent. So what we did was we allowed limit orders only, and then slowly but surely we added the price floor. We did these things to create a healthy market, which we now have. It might not be the biggest market, but it's healthy in terms of daily volumes. And so I'm not, maybe VXV can do that quicker than we did. Maybe they have a bigger community than we did initially. Who knows? But I will be having discussions with their CEO probably next week about liquidity. And we'll do what we can to help them add liquidity. Now, again, partially it's up to them. But at the time that the token gets listed on our exchange, we also can make the decision as the exchange to provide that liquidity through our own liquidity providers, whether they agree or not. Now, we don't want to have some type of relationship with an issuer where it becomes toxic because then we make a decision they don't want. So in most cases, we would want agreement. So I think there will be discussions, and we'll do what we can to make sure it's a healthy market. Getting something onto TradingView is not cheap, even if you do all the work yourself. Yeah, it's usually how it is. I don't know how much real visibility. I know someone asked for this. Not that you can't see things on TradingView, but TradingView is, a charting package. And most people use TradingView through third parties, I think. And if it's a third-party exchange, they're probably not going to show XCM pricing on TradingView. But yeah, most of these things end up not being cheap, not because it's so involved to do, simply because it's a pay-to-play type of industry, finance in general. Hello, Kevin. It seems that CM does not list USDT pairs. Could it be due to the controversy? Absolutely, Edwin. That's exactly what it's due to. So as a regulated exchange, one that believes that regulation is needed, maybe the regulation we have isn't the correct one, but that some type of oversight is needed to make sure that markets in general play fair. And yeah, the controversy behind USDT, the fact that they print money out of nowhere to buy Bitcoin, and that's probably one of the main reasons why Bitcoin pops. Bitcoin popped in 2017, 18, and why it's popping now Definitely has a lot to do with just Tether being printed out of thin air. So until that gets resolved, we won't be touching Tether. Now we have USDC. We also have USD. So the reason why Tether was created in the first place is because Bitfinex couldn't get bank accounts. So they needed a way to digitize fiat to have a place for people to go so that they didn't have to sit in crypto all the time when markets got very volatile. And it was a good Band-Aid solution. But now that Band-Aid solution has now become its own little market. But if you have access to fiat, well, there is the case for taxable solutions. So now stablecoins also now have a new reason to be used, because when you, in some countries now, just going even on the exchange virtually back to fiat means that it's a taxable event. So we do want to add support for additional, additional fiat pairings via stablecoins, and USDC as well. USDT though, yeah, until that controversy goes away, if it ever does, not something that we'd be entertaining. With VXV, are you targeting retail or institutional clients? Well, we're retail front facing. So that doesn't mean we don't get institutional clients, but we as a system generally are advertising our image is retail. Now VXV may bring on institutions to do business on CoinMetro. That's fine, we can support them too. So I don't know, in my talks with the CEO, I've talked to a lot of guys on the, look, when you deal in retail, and that's been my forte for a long time, what happens is the institutional guys look and say, retail, and you have many companies that come in and start as retail, meaning they're front facing and serving just normal people. And the burden is quite large. You have a large burden when you support retail. You have to answer questions, you have to have support, etc. And they give up. And because they throw in the towel and they become institutional only. They service much less clients and they usually make more money per client. Simple as that. For us, though, I think that's an opportunity. And for me, look, there is no institutional market without retail. There's no such thing, when you really break it down, of institutional money. And I'll tell you why. You name me an institution, and I'll act like I'm you. Ready? So, I don't know. Fidelity, right? Fidelity. Okay. So Fidelity, where does Fidelity get its money? Where does Fidelity get its money? Is it all businesses? Is it all institutions as well? Okay, let's say it is. Now that institution that gave money to Fidelity, where did it get its money? At some point down the line, your money gets tied to retail, gets tied to normal people, Main Street. Main Street funds Wall Street. Main Street is the only reason that Wall Street exists. Now, Main Street usually takes from Main Street, that's for sure. But the reason it exists is because of Main Street. So there has to be a good foundation in retail to support institutional. And when it comes to trading, institutions will trade against other institutions because they have to, but they absolutely enjoy trading against retail because it's easier. They don't have to trade against that toxic flow that potentially can beat them on price. They know they're going to win on price every single time. And it also supports retail because institutional gives more liquidity. They're there with more liquidity because they're willing to take the risks, but they're taking the risks with retail money. So there you go. So we will support both. As far as CoinMetro is concerned, our main target is retail. If they bring us institutional, we can support them as well. Would you be considered pairing USDC and/or? We do have USDC on the platform. We do plan to add more pairs. And for now, though, the goal is to get a few more assets online. But yes, USDC pairings will be coming on the platform. Now, this next one, this is not a question. I'm going to post this for about half a second just so you guys can see it, because this happens every week now. We've become quite famous with scammers who like to try and steal money from our clients, which is absolutely ridiculous. We report this to Facebook all the time. We report it to YouTube. We report it to the registrar of fake websites like CoinMetro.biz. Not our website. Not our website. Don't visit the website. Don't use that website. We've reported it to the registrar. We reported it to the FBI Internet Crimes Division more than once. Nobody's doing anything. So I'm going to post this. Remember, this is something you want to avoid. There it is. Happy Christmas, blah, blah, blah. Give us Bitcoin. We'll give you 5 times back. Any offer you see online that says, send me money first and I'll send you 3 times as much money back is a scam, guaranteed. There is no question about it. It's not maybe this one's legit. It's not maybe these people are nice. Maybe these people are trying to help me out. It is a scam. Don't talk, don't message them. Report it if you can. Click on a button, please, on Facebook if you're there now, or YouTube, wherever you are and you see this, report it, please. The more times you report it, hopefully we can finally get it to stop. Hey, Kev, is there a scope for some future point for the price floor? We'll have to see. We don't have plans. I'll leave it at that. We don't have plans to raise the price floor. I believe with the support that's going to be rolling into the platform, we may not even need to ever talk about it again. So there you go. Which boxes didn't VXV check? I'm not going to go into that because that's personal. That's between us and them. So that's like me sharing why your application was accepted but almost denied. GDPR, so privacy. So we won't share that information publicly. If it was something egregious, they wouldn't be listed. So it has nothing to do with some legal, or it's just simple things that we check that we go through. And saying it didn't check the box doesn't mean that it's something bad per se. It's just something that normally we look for, and generally it didn't meet that threshold. But it's not egregious, and that's why it was listed. How is marketing going? Do you find any traction? We're definitely getting some traction. We've increased the amount of US clients by quite a substantial margin. Now, when we look at that USD provider, if you guys remember, like 2 weeks ago, we had about 60 people that were approved to make deposits. Now it's over 200. Now that might sound like a small number. That's not the amount of US clients we have by far. There's definitely more US clients. But what we're seeing is more and more new clients coming in and looking for USD deposit options. And that's increasing quite substantially. And that's mainly from our referral networks, as well as US ads. Why didn't the big investors willing to buy XCM do so before the floor went up? Well, we had this vision to move the floor for quite some time, but we wanted enough data. Now that you can definitely say might have been a coincidence where we decided internally to go ahead and move that floor. At the same time, there were discussions about, now it would have been advantageous if the idea to kind of start buying up XCM and selling back in the book, et cetera, to create a more liquid market and to push price was something nefarious, something that these guys were simply looking to grab XCM for as cheap as possible. They simply would have sold a ton, dropped it to 1 cent, and bought it all back. They didn't do that. So the floor wouldn't have helped them in any way. In fact, the floor protects our clients from them actually doing that. But that's not their game. That's not their goal. The goal here is actually to see prosperity among all XCM holders. So it's not about them necessarily benefiting themselves. The money that they potentially make on the market making is going to flow right back in to our ecosystem and into their own businesses that are there to support people in general, right? So we're not talking about some evil corporate greed. This is something completely different. So you mentioned Plaid are taking days, not Plaid, but okay, with their platform where it was advertised almost instant. Have there any news on making that quicker? So no, it's not Plaid's. Plaid doesn't KYC anyone. Plaid simply connects bank accounts to our bank account at our provider and allows for that instant ACH to happen. When we talk about the provider, it's not Plaid. It's another provider in the U.S. It's a trust. If you've signed up for USD, you know what they're called. I'm pushing every day to make that faster. They've gotten a bit more agile, at least with sharing the information that's still needed for some of those pending accounts. I would ask anyone, if you're pending for more than 2 or 3 days, the first time you go to make a transaction on USD, please reach out to our support, give them the registered email address, let them have a look. They will then find out what might still be missing, and they'll be able to communicate that back to you and make the process a bit more agile. We're looking to automate this. Right now, we're working with the provider to see how we can do that. I'm still pressing. We will make it better. It's not just on us, it's on them as well. So it's a constant back and forth to get that done. But there is some progress being made, yes. The growth projections you include for 21, 22, 23, what was that based on? They seem very optimistic. And we talked about this actually in the last AMA, Jack. I don't think they're optimistic at all. In fact, if you break it down to, I think if you take the historic revenues that CoinMetro has seen, then obviously they look really optimistic. It's like if you're day one and have zero revenue and say, next year we're going to make 100K, that sounds pretty optimistic. But if that only means 10 sales, then that's not really all that optimistic, is it? So I think you need to step back and kind of look at those numbers for what they are. When you look at even that 2023 number, it's, I think, what's 8 million in volume a day? I don't see that as anywhere near optimistic. In fact, I see that quite conservative. The fact is, though, that while other exchanges with 8 million wouldn't make the same amount of money we're projecting, we have multiple revenue streams. We make money on many more pieces of our ecosystem. And because even though we make money, we still charge, for the most part, substantially less than any competitor. I think our ability to grow, once we start to see more and more people come to the platform and more people talk about us, I think we have such an ability to grow and grow our client base more than almost any other business that sits in crypto in the exchange business right now, simply because we are cheaper, our support is better, our platforms are better, there are more feature sets, et cetera. So I think when you look, the reason why we haven't seen that growth yet is, well, because we haven't had the money to see that growth. We haven't had we had money, but we had to focus on development. We've gone through the development. The next phase here in this fundraising is to go into growth. And yeah, I don't see them as optimistic as all, to be fair. I think if you really break it down, they're not optimistic at all. If you look at Bitpanda right now, they do about those volumes we're talking about in 2023. And they do them in crypto after only a year. Well, they had 50 million and another 50 million to spend. So obviously that's why they were able to do it. We don't need that much money, I don't think, to be able to get the word out, to be fair, not even close. And all these things that are starting to come into play with XCM support, with support on the bond, et cetera, equity support as well, direct to equity investments. I have no doubt in my mind we can do it. If you look at just the growth we did on a shoestring budget between Q3 and Q4, I mean, Q1 for volumes, we 40x'd our volumes in this year. If we do that one more time, we're so far past that 2023 estimation. And there's no difference between 40xing 1 to 40 and 40 to 1,600. There really is no difference. Now, it costs more. You have to acquire more clients. Each client has a cost. It means you need more money to acquire. But with the money, there's not much of a difference. So yeah, to me, they're not optimistic. And I'd be willing to go, line by line if needed, to go over why I don't think they're optimistic. I think they're quite conservative. Will AED fiat ramps be available? The UAE was in your top traffic countries. So can we make them available? I do believe on one of our banking providers, the same one that provides us with odd accounts, they do have AED. So that means, yes, it could be possible. It's not local, it's in Switzerland, but still, it's a fiat on and off ramp. Now, one thing that you start to get into, well, I guess my answer is yes. The problem is we need to know that there's demand. It costs us money to do that. It takes effort to get it done. I told you guys at one point, I think, that the markets page, next iteration in Q1, we will have different tokens and different fiats that you'll be able to vote on, and things that get voted in will be added. This way we can understand a bit more the demand. The traffic doesn't equal demand. Lots of businesses in AED, lots of people hold money in US dollars. So they could potentially fund via USD and might prefer it. They might prefer euro as well. So in a lot of countries where local currencies exist, Singapore, even Canada for that matter, the AED in the UAE, let's say other countries, Turkey, a lot of those countries actually prefer to hold currency that isn't their own home currency, and they bank in those currencies. So, but again, if we see the demand, we can add it, that's for sure. So will they be available? It's simply a question of demand. They can be available. We have the ability to support it. Oliver also mentioned about new cross-marketing tools. Can you elaborate on that? That's going to be with the communities of the tokens that we plan on listing for the most part, I believe. And that's where the cross-marketing come in. The VXV is one of them, and there are also others that we're working on that over the next few weeks you're going to find out what those are as well, and there'll be cross-marketing between those companies as well. This year, no. Not going to happen this year with these two. Our goal is to support every staking mechanism possible on the assets that we have on our platform, and even have staking methodologies and models that don't exist anywhere else. So we will do it, yes. I would like to do something like Kraken, where you can stake. Well, when you stake ETH for ETH2, it's locked, and you do not know how long. Which means, if the price collapses, you can't get out. So what Kraken did, which allows you then to basically almost kind of take a loan of the same amount of ETH, and then if you sell it, they just retain the ETH that you locked. I think that's where we want to go. That's going to provide. So yes, we will support it. We want to support it right, do it right, create something unique, something similar to Kraken, unique, that we feel isn't available elsewhere. Next year, ETH2 staking, but not within the next 2 weeks, though. Any potential to get info on Blockfolio fixed? Looks like it's circulating supply volume market cap. I think we've reached out to them as far as I know. I mean, CoinGecko, we sent them the new contract address like 55 times now, and they still haven't updated it. So I think we have been in touch with Blockfolio, and we will continue to push and try. There was another one too. Delta app. I don't know if that one's been updated either, but we've been in touch with all of them. Yes, we are. We've actually already done that. Last year, we had a project or the year before, actually, we had a project that used it. Ignium will be using it. Ignium will be paying for that service. They are using it, but they will be paying for it at some point in the near future, probably Q1 next year. And yes, it will be, at some point, we'll add a B2B section on the website. That's going to be one of the B2B products. When are XCM pairings coming? Now we can just buy ETH with XCM, right? Well, you can also buy Euro or USD, I guess, if you're holding XCM. But correct, we don't have a lot of XCM pairings. That's simply because we want to create enough liquidity. Now, we've already talked about quite an extent in this AMA about support coming in for XCM. As that support comes in, it'll give us much more options to offer for collateral, on margin, on TRAM, to be able to, the staking, to be able to have additional listings, et cetera. All that is coming on the back of more liquidity. Any update on the XCM information page? Yep, actually, the designers that are working on it asked Oliver today to provide the content. So you can ask Oliver about that. I know there's been a lot of Oliver's plate, so I think maybe this weekend, early next week, that content will start to be put together, get over to the designer, and the goal was potentially to have a draft of that thing before everybody goes on vacation. That might not happen, but definitely in the beginning of January, we're going to see that XCM page come online. You're welcome, Jack. Not a problem. You said a few days ago you were looking at reducing your service with BitGo. Why is that? What's promoted the change when you're going through growth? Well, what promotes every change? So we like working with BitGo. Some of the things BitGo does, they do quite well. Others, they don't do that well. They have a lot of services now that they didn't have before. Most of those services we don't use and don't really provide any value to us. There are other competitors now that have come out that have newer services, different pricing models, support many more assets that provide value to us and to our clients. So the whole thing with business is you might feel comfy somewhere, and we do feel comfy, I guess, with BitGo. But if there's more services, better pricing somewhere else that can benefit you and your users, then you explore how you can use them. So that doesn't mean we leave BitGo in the lurch. Doesn't mean we would stop using BitGo. Doesn't mean from one day to the next we would leave and automatically be somewhere else. No, it would be a staged process, and even then, BitGo would probably still be part of our ecosystem. But it's all about providing you guys the best service, and at the same time, making sure that it's the most secure, fastest, and obviously, if we can reduce that withdrawal fee, great for you, great for us as well. So. How many new coins do you expect to have listed within the next 6 months? It's a good question. I don't know. It's hard to find good assets, guys. There's lots of assets in crypto. Most of them are shit. That's why they call them shit coins. And that's just the reality. And that's not just crypto. There's lots of companies in the world. Most of them are shit. There's lots of people in the world. I'm not going to finish that one, but you go ahead. So the idea is that we want to find quality over quantity. Now, quality can come in different. Quality could be, we think this thing's going to pop, and we want our community to be able to take advantage. Okay, we don't think this is going to pop really quickly, but we think it's a great company, and we want to give diversification to our user base, and we want them to be able to buy into something that we feel over time is going to be a really good kind of stable value that just gives kind of dividends year on year. Great. So it's not about quantity, it's about quality. I would say that we have the ability to list a couple a week, but to find a couple a week, impossible. Absolutely impossible. They don't exist. So I think if we set a goal based on quality or quantity, we're going the wrong way. But we find quality projects, we will start to look much more actively. Eventually, maybe in Q1 or Q2 next year, we will have a listings manager. One person, all they do is look for listings, vet them. And then probably more than one person. Not the type of guys you get on like LinkedIn that go, hey, I'm from Bits, or in Telegram, hey, I'm from Bitstamp. Maybe you guys want to do an IEO. Do you know what crypto is? They don't even look. I literally get messages on LinkedIn asking me if I would want to do an IEO on Bitstamp every other day and saying that, do you know what crypto is? It's awesome. Like they didn't even bother to filter out their automatic messages for people that are already in the industry. Anyway, moving on. What time do VXVIA operations start? The goal is by the end of business today in Talon. That's the goal. Sometime today. Have you agreed on how XCM will work with TRAM? Saw it mentioned in recent. Essentially, you'll be able to, well, you can already trade. Yeah, obviously, at some point, we feel we want to take out the limitations on trading XCM so that there's no limitations on market or market orders, for example. However, you'll be able to put it up for collateral. In first instance, because we want to make sure there's enough liquidity to support potential liquidations, that collateral, you'll be able to trade maybe 10%. Let's say you put up 10K worth of XCM in euro, you'll have 1K worth of collateral, but you'll get it at, well, currently 5X and soon 10X. So you'd still be able to trade. So it's like you're trading 1-to-1. We're allowing you to trade your collateral 1-to-1, but on margin using 10X, for example. Then over time, though, it would go to 100. So you'll be able to use it as collateral. At the same time, you did make staking rewards on that same XCM once staking is out as well, as long as you've opted in for staking and the limit hasn't been surpassed. So that's essentially how it'll work, as a collateral mechanism. When is the new app and updated affiliate page releasing? New app, I think the new version, this kind of interim version before we really go into the hardcore update, is probably going to happen next week. Oh, went up. An affiliate page is currently being worked on. The design is done. We're waiting for it to actually go into development. We're waiting to get word back, I think, early next week on a schedule. I don't expect it to take a massive amount of time. So I think potentially before winter break, we see that affiliate page up. If not, very soon, in early January. So very, very soon after we get back from vacations. Well, not most of us won't be taking vacations, but when normal people go on vacation. Kevin, congrats on your good work, man. I'm very happy with the progress. Well, appreciate that. Very happy to see you here and asking questions. That's great. Thanks, Kevin. Great, AMA. All right, guys. I guess you guys already always know when an hour's coming up. We still got about 9 minutes, so I got a bit of gas left in the tank. If anybody has any additional questions, I'll give it a couple minutes here. But I'll start off by saying, thank you guys for showing up. Thanks for the questions. Thanks for the thumbs up and the hearts and the wow faces and all that great stuff. That's amazing. Thanks for the support. As you can see, we do have a tremendous community. Those that are here every week, thank you guys for that. And those that don't come here every week, and maybe you guys have never seen before, but definitely are there supporting us behind the scenes on everything we do. It's humbling, and it's just fucking awesome, guys. There's nothing else I can say about it. So I do appreciate all the support. I'm going to do my best to make sure that I do right by that support. And I think everybody else in the business thinks the same way. I know that everybody else in the business thinks the same way. So appreciate you guys, all your support. Thanks for all the great messages. There's a few questions that I'll answer before I go, but as you guys know, it's going to be the weekend. It's Friday. Spend time with friends and family. Probably going to have to do it virtually, considering, but whatever, get on that Zoom call, get on that Google Meetup, get on Skype if you still use it. And talk to those relatives you don't talk to your friends and family, talk to somebody. Say hi, make sure they know that Christmas is coming and you sent your card off to Santa just yesterday. You postmarked it. It should be there soon. And if they want to know, because obviously most people like to know what you're asking Santa for. I mean, number one, I don't know why anybody wouldn't know this, is obviously XCM. And before it pops too high, where it becomes a burden to buy. I mean, who wants it to be a burden? It's a burden to buy, but it will be very nice to hold. Anyway, guys, I jest aside, but have a great weekend. I'm going to answer these last couple of questions, and then we'll get out of here. I guess Bjorn had one first. Hold on. When 10 euros? Right after 9.99, probably. End of year projections for XCM, PRQ, BTC. XCM, going to leave that one out. Higher, I guess, is my prediction for end of year. PRQ, I think most things for the end of the year, we're going to see capitulation. More than likely, we've already started to see a bit. I think we're going to see maybe one more try upwards of 3/4 of the way, some type of retracement level for Bitcoin and Ethereum before we start to see capitulation into the new year. That capitulation could be quite hard, could be 20, 30%. So PRQ might benefit from that. And I think some altcoins definitely will. PRQ is a decent altcoin, so it should. Maybe we see somewhere between mid-range between the current price and the high, so maybe somewhere around 20 cents is possible. But I would say you can have a healthy range on altcoins. So that healthy range, the range we're sitting on right now is probably 8 cents to 36 euro cents. I don't expect to go outside that range. Expect to stay within that range. I think mid-range is a good projection. BTC, end of year will probably be hovering slightly lower than it is now, but I would expect before we get into the first couple of weeks of January, you're going to see more capitulation as profit taking starts to hit the market. You'll also see people buying those well because more money will flow back into capital markets come January, especially when people start pulling out of stocks. for fear that if a Democrat's coming into the office, you're going to start to see more capitulation there as well. Any news on potential new bonds? Some news there, yep. Cool company that deals in genetics, a media company. We also have a decentralized social media platform. All three of those coming probably in early 2021. Average XCM holding, I don't have those. Ask that in Telegram, and we'll try to get some numbers for you. When will the website have the functionality to allow me to track my portfolio in a graphical way? I think we already have that, Grace. That's right on the dashboard. Let me know what you mean by graphical. You can tag me in Telegram, or you can tweet me on Twitter at Kevin Murcko. Telegram is probably a good place because other people can help you out as well. But I can answer that more fully if you explain it a bit better. But the dashboard is already graphical, has a little pie chart, shows you what you hold, also gives you the euro or USD, depending on what fiat you've selected as your main fiat currency. It'll show you also what those values look like. So let me know what you mean by visual. If you have a cool idea, share it with us, and maybe in the next release, you're going to see it go live. Appreciate that, Grace. Since I'm already an ICO tier, I don't see the ability to lock my XCM. Will this be an option in the future? Just want to support XCM. Well, if you're in the ICO tier, there's no more locking that can happen. When staking comes out, you can definitely opt in for the staking, which will give you some nice added benefit to the XCM you hold. Either way, you holding that XCM is already benefiting us. So way to go. You buying it and holding it is already a great benefit. So we appreciate that. I appreciate you too as well, Grace, for coming here and asking a question. And definitely, if you're going to support us by giving us some great ideas, awesome. Yeah, I know, man. Some people still use Skype, man. I get Skype requests, trust me. XCM for Christmas, right on. Thank you, Grace, again. Yeah. Santa, please, XCM, make it a burden to buy. That's what I want. Well, actually, it can't be a burden for everybody. Make it a burden for us, but not for everybody else, because somebody's got to be buying, right? A chart. Okay, so when you talk about a chart, so yeah, okay. So what kind of chart would you want to see? A line chart, a bar chart? You have a pie chart, I guess, or I guess that's actually not a pie chart, but there's another name for it. But it kind of looks like a pie chart with nothing in the middle. So we already have that, which is a form of a chart. Do you mean like a line chart, more graphical kind of chart, where maybe every asset is a line on that chart and it goes up and down with like the fiat value? So yeah, as much information as you can give, please. I'm about to sign off, but tag me in Telegram and write out as much information as you can get, as detailed as you can go, and we'll bring it up in our next sprint meeting. So thanks, Grace. Thanks everybody else. Thanks, Bjorn. Thanks. If I start mentioning people, I'm going to miss somebody, and then somebody's going to be upset. Thanks, Brian. Thanks everybody that's here. Thank you very much for all your questions. They've been great. Have a great weekend. Talk to you guys next week. Tag me, please, and we'll talk on chat on Telegram. And again, thanks for the support. Cheers, guys. Have a great weekend. And gals, guys and gals.